Orban and the Basilic. Superguns have been used in combat over the years, and they have many colorful names such as Big Bertha, Little David, Crazy Pete, and Mucky Meg. But the granddaddy of them all was the Basilic. This is the story of its creator, Urban, and his supergun, the Basilic. Orban was an engineer from Hungary who was one of the many Europeans who came to Eastern Roman capital of Constantinople to seek fame, fortune, and glory in the upcoming conflict between the Eastern Roman Empire and the Ottoman Turks in the spring of 1452. He gained an audience with Emperor Constantine XI and told him of his creation of large cannons, but the cash-strapped empire couldn't afford the raw materials nor the cash needed to build his weapons. Afraid of him wandering off farther east, he put him on a small stipend and kept him in the city. But the stipend was rarely paid, and being broke and having to resort to handouts, Orban left the city a few months later after studying the walls and fortifications surrounding the city of Constantinople. He made his way towards the Ottoman side in Enderun and received an audience from Sultan Mehmet II. After speaking to him, he was intrigued with the possibilities of creating large weapons that could destroy the massive walls of Constantinople. Orban was soon in the employment of the Ottomans, and he gave them whatever resources and materials Orban needed to make the giant siege cannons. Mehmet asked Orban if he could design a cannon that could crush the walls. Orban replied, "If you want, I could create a bronze cannon that can launch any capacity of stone you want. I have examined the walls in great detail, and I could shatter them to dust. Not only these walls, with the stones from my gun, but the very walls of Babylon itself. I can fully carry out its creation, but I don't know how to fire it." Mehmet ordered the stock of large amounts of gunpowder and the materials needed to make the cannon. Giant granite balls were created to fit the large barrel of the supergun. A mold was made for the cannon, which measured 27 feet and 2.5 feet wide around the barrel. It fired granite balls that weighed over 1,200 pounds, and it had a range of over a mile. It took 3 months to create the gun, and it was made from bronze and tin scraps. Many of them came from church bells into a giant foundry along with some lucky coins. The cannon barrel was 8 inches thick around and used a special kind of gunpowder that was so powerful it made a gigantic boom when fired. News of the giant supergun spread like wildfire and scared the people of Constantinople. The gun had to be transported over 160 miles from the city of Enderun to the outskirts of Constantinople. A large team of 200 men and 60 oxen carted the gun, traveling about 2 to 3 miles a day. As the team lumbered towards its destination, people could only look in horror as Mehmet's supergun headed to its position near the Throat Cutter Castle on the Bosphorus, a mile from Constantinople. Not only could this giant cannon knock down the walls of the city, but its psychological effects were an added bonus as well. The supergun was placed in a position near the large tent of Mehmed II, who wanted to see his gun fired whenever he could. When it fired, it powderized the walls whenever those giant granite balls smashed their targets. But the problem was it could only be fired around 3 to 6 times in a 24-hour period due to having to cool the cannon off because it was shoddily constructed and it took time to load and pack in the gunpowder and cannonballs. Pieces of the hot bronze and backfire from the gun would maim or kill the loaders, since the gun was just a gigantic tube with no solid foundation. It would sometimes roll to the side and even kill more of his handlers if the backfire didn't. Mehmet ordered his gun to be continued to be loaded and fired whenever possible. They managed to fire it up to 7 times a day, but after a week of continuous operation, the barrel was beginning to crack due to the heat caused by its powerful gunpowder packing. The spring rain also began to cause the barrel to crack, and it had to be soaked constantly in oil after each firing to keep it from being wet. Orban wanted to take the gun back and have it recasted, but he knew that it would eventually was going to explode into a million pieces and kill everyone around it. But Mehmed refused to take the cannon out of service. Orban told the Sultan to stand back before firing it one more time, and it blew apart, killing Orban and his cannon crew. Mehmed ordered the remains of the cannon to be put back together, and it was fired one last time after the giant barrel was bound together with iron hoops, but it fell apart again, but this time for good. This concludes the tale of Orban and his supergun, the Basilic. If you would like to read a highly detailed account about the fall of Constantinople, I highly recommend this book by Roger Crowley. It's a fact-filled and entertaining read about the final days of the Eastern Roman Empire and one of my trusted sources besides J.B. Bury. Thanks for watching another episode of the Byzantine history of the Eastern Roman Empire. My name is Joseph Ulivas, your illustrious narrator, and I bid you adieu.